The truth, they don't tell you about tithing. Stay with me on this. A lot of pastors have said many things about tithing. Some biblical, others unbiblical. Some claim that the sin Adam committed in the Garden of Eden was failing to pay his tithe. Others say that if you don't tithe, you're robbing God and living under a curse. Still, others argue that tithing was part of the Old Testament law and no longer applies to Christians today. So, what's the truth? First, let's be clear. Tithing is biblical. Leviticus 27 verses 30 states that a tenth of everything, grain from the soil, fruit from the trees, belongs to the Lord and is holy to him. Under the law of Moses, tithing was not optional. The Israelites were commanded to give a tenth of their produce and livestock to support the Levites, who had no inheritance of land because they were set apart for the service of the temple. Tithing was also deeply connected to covenant faithfulness. In Malachi 3 verse 8 to 10, God rebukes Israel for withholding tithes and offerings, calling it robbery, and links obedience in giving with blessing. This is where much of the "you're cursed if you don't tithe" language comes from. But notice the context. Israel under the Mosaic law, not the New Covenant Church. So what did Jesus say about tithing? Jesus addressed tithing directly in Matthew 23 verse 23. He rebuked the Pharisees for tithing meticulously, even herbs like mint, dill, and cumin, while neglecting justice, mercy, and faithfulness. Then he said something crucial. These you ought to have done without neglecting the others. In other words, Jesus did not condemn tithing. He affirmed it, but he exposed the danger of using tithing as a substitute for obedience of the heart. At the same time, Jesus consistently shifted the focus from external compliance to internal transformation. He spoke more about generosity, sacrifice, and love than percentages. He praised the widow who gave 2 small coins, not because of the amount, but because she gave all she had. For Jesus, the issue was never the math, it was the motive. Now comes the big question. Does this mean we should stop tithing? No, but it does mean we should understand it rightly. The New Testament does not command Christians to tithe under threat of a curse. Believers are not under the law of Moses, but under grace. However, grace does not lower the standard, it raises it. Instead of a fixed 10%, the New Testament teaches cheerful, willing, and generous giving. 2 Corinthians 9 verses 6 and 7. Giving is no longer enforced by law, but empowered by love. So tithing can still be a wise and biblical principle, a starting point for disciplined generosity. But it should never be preached as a fear-based tax or proof of salvation. God is not after your money, He's after your heart. And when your heart is surrendered, generosity naturally follows. The truth they don't always tell you is this: you're not blessed because you tithe. You tithe or give generously because you're already blessed. And that changes everything. If this opened your eyes, don't scroll past it. Share this with someone who has been confused, pressured, or burdened by the topic of tithing. Follow our page, Bible Nuggets, for more Bible truth explained with clarity, context, and compassion. The Lord bless you. Amen.